You do not have to be good. Even the best of us have been misunderstood. So get up onto your feet. The sun is shining, repentance through the leaf.
Hey homemaker, if you've watched any of my other recent videos, I've been very open about the struggles that I had in my homemaking. And after going through a transformation over the years, I now help other homemakers to feel less overwhelmed in their own homemaking. I've found that there are usually three main categories that need to be worked on when a homemaker is feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated, and unfulfilled in her role. The first is that she lacks vision for her homemaking. She hasn't developed an intentional family culture, and perhaps she's lost some of the unique qualities that make her who she is. Secondly, her homemaking rhythms are either too complicated and can't be easily adjusted based on the season of homemaking she's in, or they're underdeveloped and she's just flying by the seat of her pants. And then lastly, and this one tends to be the most profound once it's properly addressed, is that the homemaker is operating in a state of fight or flight. Her nervous system is running on overdrive and she's in a chronic state of fatigue, stress, and perhaps has chronic ailments keeping her in pain and discomfort. So homemakers often get into this state of chronic fight or flight, and often it can be due from the stress and potential traumas of childbirth and new motherhood, marriage, all these things which are so new to us, and also have a massive hormonal impact on our body, more than we'll ever experience in our entire life, even more than menopause, because it's in such a condensed period of time, whereas menopause takes years and years and years. So the good news is that all of these areas are areas in which we can address. I created a course called the Transformed Homemakers Society, which addresses each of these areas in great detail. And in this video, I'm going to give you a few tips in order to address each of these areas. So the first tip when you're in the trenches of homemaking is to actually sit down and create your ideal vision for homemaking. Who do you want to be, and what do you want your home to feel like? What do you want it to look like, smell like? Go into great details about these visions. Then develop your family culture. Sit down with your husband and decide what your main values are as a family. This will help you to guide your priorities as a family. Finally, remember your own qualities that make you uniquely you. God made you the homemaker for your family for a reason. You bring something unique to the table that nobody else can. It's the reason your husband fell in love with you, and it's what your children will remember about their mama when they're grown and out of the house. So take some time to remember what these qualities are and work to embody them throughout your homemaking. In my course, I call these unique homemaker qualities, and I help you to develop them going through several different exercises. My next tip is to address your homemaking rhythms. Are they underdeveloped, or are they too complicated? A good way to tell the difference is if you can't seem to get just the basics done in a day, then likely your homemaking rhythms are underdeveloped. However, if you're getting everything done, but you're just stressed out and overwhelmed and frantic as you go about your tasks, then they're likely just too complicated for the season of homemaking that you're currently in. In either case, you need to pivot and make some changes. So I have lots of tips for homemaking on this channel, but I go into detail in my course for how to make changes in your homemaking rhythms so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And if they're underdeveloped, I help you create homemaking systems that are simplified. Okay, so one of the things that is so simple but has had the most profound impact on my homemaking is by switching to a physical planner. I started doing this when I got rid of my phone for a season. Well, I got rid of my smartphone. I had a flip phone for a season. And so I got a physical planner, and then I never went back to planning on my phone again because having a physical planner made such a profound impact on my homemaking. It made me more productive, and I just love it. So I use the Plum paper planner. I'll link it below. I love that I can completely customize every aspect of this planner, seriously down to the color of the spirals. I can customize the cover. Each section is my own. I've literally created every section with exactly what I wanted, how many lines I wanted, and how many, what it's titled and what it looks like. It's all customizable. It's actually a really fun process too to customize it if your brain works like mine does. Anyways, I'll link it below, but having a physical planner and sitting down and planning my week and my month, weekly and monthly, and then every day going through and looking at what I have going for that day has just been so crucial in simplifying my homemaking, but also helping me to be more productive.
I wish I could leave my skin behind in this old rented room, float my way across the great divide and be buried in you. I've been looking far and wide for what I gotta prove, and putting peaks in my rear view.
So far this morning, I have just been making a cup of coffee and then making these amazing sourdough cinnamon raisin English muffins. It's the best recipe that I've come across. If you do sourdough, I'll link the recipe below. It is so divine, and they're so easy too. And they come out just like so fluffy, and they're long fermented, and so delicious. So is anybody else a sucker for picture books? I am such a sucker for cute picture books for my kids. I'm always on the lookout for ones that just speak to my heart. And going back to creating that vision that I was talking about for your home and the culture, I have a vision for my family, and one of our values is to really value our home and just the home in general. And so I love books that really speak to that. And this book is called Let's Go Home. And it's just talking about all the rooms in a house and why we should love them and why they're so great. And the illustrations are just beautiful. So anyway, I'll link the book below.
I've climbed the mountains in Montana, danced in the lights of New Orleans. Portland ran away with me, and San Francisco stayed with me. Nashville made its way in between. Fell in love in Minnesota, and fell apart south of Salt Lake.
Lastly, if you're overwhelmed while in the trenches of homemaking, you need to determine if you're operating in a state of chronic fight or flight. So here's how you'll know. Do you experience frequent anxiety, panic attacks, and/or mood swings? Do you have autoimmune diseases, brain fog, chemical, light, smell, and EMF sensitivities? Difficulty with healing injuries, frequent infections, difficulty with pain processing? Do you have digestive issues or lots of food sensitivities? Immune dysregulation? All of these are clues that your body's in a chronic state of fight or flight mode, creating an impaired limbic system. So all of these symptoms seem unrelated, but they're actually a result of the chronic stress on your body. So God created us to have a fight or flight response in order to protect us from potentially life-threatening situations. Unfortunately, the body can use this same response to inappropriately react to stressors that are not life-threatening, such as maybe your child throwing food or your husband losing his job, things like that. So how does the body get into this vicious cycle of chronic fight or flight? Living in a chronic state of stress can put your body in a prolonged state of fight or flight. So the way that you perceive stressful situations can also put your body in this state. Most of the time, the perceived stress is through no fault of the person, but there are some things that people can do to mitigate unnecessary stress on their bodies, which could keep them in this state of fight or flight. For example, don't ruminate on traumatic situations or unideal situations. Don't excessively talk about issues in your life, things like that. So if you do think you're in a chronic state of fight or flight, my biggest recommendation is to weave pockets of regulation throughout your day in order to bring down your nervous system and to calm it down and to put your body in a state of what's called rest and digest, where it can actually do healing and regulation. In my course, I have an entire formula which you can copy and paste into your routine so that you can help to regulate your nervous system. I also have tons of videos on this channel addressing this exact issue that many homemakers face, so I'll link a playlist below. But one of the best ways that I like to weave pockets of regulation throughout my day is by just little self-care activities, like making a cup of coffee or reading a book for pleasure, taking a bath, exercising, or any number of things that you find enjoyable. So right now I'm just doing one of my simplified homemaking rhythms, which is to pull all the meat out that we're going to use for the week. I use my planner that I mentioned before to write down all the meat that we're using for the week based off of the meal plan that I created for the week. It's a super simple process that I do every week, but it makes mealtime so much easier. All right, homemakers. Well, I hope that this was encouraging for you in how you run your home. Thank you so much for watching.